What are you talking about?
It's just so many microphones and
That's
audio.
I know, right? I mean,
stuff.
this is what happened to us by being stuck at home forever. We bought way too many microphones and cameras and whatever. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, no, well, no, I'm in a foul mood
Foul?
because BA just canceled my return flight for a trip I'm taking on Friday.
What? No way.
Yeah, 5 days before the return flight, they did it so inelegantly. I got a notification that my seat had changed, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's whatever. Maybe they changed the airplane or whatever." So I click on that, and it takes me to my booking. It says your flight's been canceled, and
So you're going somewhere, but you're not coming back.
not coming back, and I have to get back, and they keep doing this. BA and Virgin.
Well, depends on where you're
doing
going.
this.
Where are you going?
Washington D.C.
Oh yeah. Well, no, sorry for the guys where I was about to say that DC is maybe not the best place to stay, but no, it's okay actually. I'm gonna have some hate mail now.
This keeps happening. Virgin are really bad at this, of loading a schedule in and then canceling it.
But you just said BA. Was it Virgin?
Yeah, Virgin have been doing this throughout COVID. They'll load it in, and then you book it. They take your money, and then about maybe 3 or 4 weeks before the flight, they cancel it.
This is how they play.
How
they play with Treasury. All these airlines, all this time. You know, like, book stuff. Don't worry, book it. Here's a voucher, and then they want
money. Exactly, the voucher, and then it's infuriating. BA have done it to me on a few occasions, but the flight will linger on in Google Flights as an available result,
of course,
for days and days after they've canceled the flights, because it hasn't permeated through all of their affiliate partners, airline partners and all that. So they really do at this rate.
So is it a long trip? As in, are you supposed to stay only a couple of days and coming back?
Yeah, a couple of days. Like I'm out there for just a couple of days, and
gosh,
leaving Friday, coming back. I was supposed to leave at like 11 p.m. Friday night, so I'm scrambling to figure out if I can. So
this is fantastic because your weekend is going to turn out to stay a month or something in DC.
Yeah,
sorry because. Let's have a nice weekend in DC, enjoy some good food, and, invade the capital. No, sorry, this is not where you're going.
Yeah.
Let me press the usual stuff because we are actually already recording, but this is
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
There you go. He's counting on you, Alex. He's counting on you. It's getting hot in here. Actually, let me remove my...
Yeah, same.
Let me remove my jacket before we start this. I mean, we already started. Hello, everyone. This is episode 110. Holy cow, 110. Flight 110. I don't know where we're going. 2 hours probably again, like last time. We didn't have any complaints. So people are either they don't tune in. I think they do because I see their stats, or they're okay with us going on forever. I even removed chapters. I used to do chapters, and because now I'm just going live and raw. Podcast verite, as I called it. I just,
I like
no chapter. Guys, there's a pause button. You can pause. I'm sure that some of you would like to have a non-Paul button, so you only listen to Alex and not Paul. Just remember.
Oh, I don't know about that. Jeez, that sounds awful.
This is the episode where we will learn how it feels for Alex to have been a kid again, and ask him in a few because he flew with his mother. I hope that didn't get canceled, right? That happened.
No, we made it.
You made it.
We made it.
So I'll ask you in a bit how was that. So let's have our intro music before we get into the proceedings. Which one is the button now? Because of so many buttons, like so many microphones. I think this is the one. This is the short version. Let's go. So Gen Kanai, the epitome of good taste in music, wrote us to say the music is amazing, which means that I'm not going to change it. Guys, this is a new music for the show because Genk and I decided, and I think
forever
and ever. Sorry, we've been off the air for a while. I don't know when we recorded last. Was it a month ago? Because Alex is crisscrossing the world. I mean, mostly crisscrossing to the US and back.
Yeah, and then we were supposed to record him, and then my daughter broke her wrist. Yeah. So
is she better now?
She's a tough little cookie. So
she takes from her father. That's why. I mean, not that I wish you to break your wrist when you're taking a flight.
Yeah, I'd rather not at this point. At the rest of this day is fine.
So 2 hours probably, hopefully maybe less, but we have so much to talk about, and then again, so little to talk about. I haven't listened to your latest Mastication Nation because it's on Hong Kong, and I'm sure that must be a grand one. But I listened to the previous one, and I love the fact that you've been pistol whipped. So that.
Yeah, everybody seemed to like that.
I mean, I got shot at. So the bullet didn't get through me, but that's for maybe one day.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that. I don't think I've heard that.
Yeah, because that's part of the world that is always contentious. So, which is why I'm probably not going to do that on layovers. I'll tell you after when we finish recording. First of all, it's amazing that we just said it's hot in here. That is great weather finally, because we had a dreadful month of May in the UK and all over Europe, I think. And because we can go out, we can actually meet people again. It feels really cool, really great that we're starting to get some normality.
Yeah, it's absolutely
right.
Needed and deserved, frankly. We as a people deserve some decent weather. It's been awful.
And also some decent food outside. There's something to be said about just having someone serving you food. I know it's not here to talk about someone that serves you food, but to not having to cook and being outside with friends and enjoying a good beer or good wine and being it's just amazing. And it feels we have some kind of normality. I always want to be cautious, of course, because I said that last June. But I think this time it should be, at least in our countries. When I say countries, obviously I meant for you is both the US and the UK. For me, it's the UK, but I'm not Brit yet. Maybe one day after 9 years here. It feels great, and I'm happy as well for the people to being able to work. People in hospitality starting to being able to do something again, because that started to be a little bit long for them, right?
Yeah.
But for us, did you enjoy some good food?
I always enjoy some good food, Paul. You know that. Yeah, I'm always on the lookout. Yeah, I had some amazing food in California. California Japanese fusion. That was probably a highlight.
Not called a California roll.
Well, yeah, I mean, there is that too. Yeah, it was good stuff. Oakland, I'd forgotten how good the food scene is there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll ask you in a bit about your flights there. Because obviously, in our pure tradition of being people that foresee the future always, and we've always been good at this, we finished our last episode by saying, I think I said it, or maybe you said it, I don't remember, don't get diverted. Well, unless you were flying from Athens to Vilnius on a Ryanair flight and ended up in Minsk, don't get diverted. I mean,
holy crap.
What the... Man... That's insane.
What a dangerous precedent that's set.
That's insane. For those who haven't followed, so a Ryanair flight took off from Athens. We're supposed to land in Vilnius. So it's a straight line. If you look at the map, it's really, you go full north from Athens. You end up in Vilnius. I think, 2-3 hours flight probably. And just when they were over Belarus, which the airspace, because they have to in that straight line, they sent a MiG, said that they had a call that they might have had a bomb on board and diverted the flight, said you need to get to the nearest airport. Vilnius was actually closer, but because they were on the air, and especially imagine if you're a pilot and you get a MiG being sent in front of you, you don't play smart. And and that was kind of the crazy story. O'Leary, the CEO of Ryanair, called it hijacking, piracy in the air. It's crazy, man. I mean,
yeah, it's crazy on so many levels. I mean, if you'd read it out of context, you would have thought it sounded far-fetched and overwritten, and not out of place in a sort of mediocre spy novel. But it was interesting on so many levels because of, from a geopolitical perspective, it set a dangerous precedent that if a third nation, because it wasn't a Belarusian airplane, it wasn't a
it was a
Belarusian
Polish.
airline,
It was a Polish registered aircraft.
Registered. With a parent in Ireland, flying between Greece and Lithuania.
2 EU countries, 2 NATO countries, and then if you add all of them, basically all of them NATO and EU countries, and then suddenly you get diverted.
You have a third party, basically. I mean, I don't think hijacking is an exaggeration, but then you went through all from the pilot's perspective, and reading all of their forums, and they're basically saying what you just alluded to. When there is a MiG next to you, you do what you're told.
Yeah. I mean,
you land where they tell you to land, and then you figure out the consequences after that, because who knows what they're going to do.
Yeah, who knows what they're going to do. They said they had, I mean, it's a bit of a joke. They said they had a warning from Hamas that there was a planned bomb on that flight, only that the email that they presented as proof was sent 24 minutes after the actual diversion. So there's also probably could be that this is just all fake. They clearly wanted to catch this political opponent, apparently, that was on the flight. And
Journalist, yeah.
O'Leary said as well that there were operatives that boarded the flight. And so I'm wondering if these operatives got a voucher from Ryanair because they didn't finish the flight, right?
They didn't get where they needed to go. Oh, yeah.
I mean, the precedent is obviously something that is problematic because, I mean, some people, I read online, of course, online, there's a lot of morons online. People say, yeah, but this person shouldn't have taken the flight knowing they would fly over the country that he's opposing. Yeah, but the problem is...
But when was the last time No, nonsense.
Right.
Nonsense.
And also, if Paul and Alex are on that flight, am I going to check that every single passenger or any flight I'm going to take in the future has no business being on an airspace of something? And then you get... It's not only the person, which of course is shameful and shouldn't have happened to him, and apparently his girlfriend, I think, but also for the rest of the passengers. You're being suddenly diverted. It's not your fault staying... And that was... just that. It could have been worse. We don't know. Remember, there was a flight that was shot down over Ukraine, years ago. It's not obviously the same thing, but I mean, it's like, no, I'm not liking that at all.
No, I don't. I think that's nonsense. That whole thing is just specious reasoning that doesn't. I mean, and also, like, how many people are going to check the? Yes, I appreciate that it's a straight line on a map, but generally, flights don't work like that. But what has been interesting as a result as part of the fallout of this is that airlines have stopped flying over Belarus.
Yeah, so the EU has asked all its airlines to not fly over Belarus. The UK has done the same. Now that it's not part of the EU, and then it became a whole grand chessboard because Russia suddenly started saying that, hey, Air France or Lufthansa, you cannot come to Moscow. We're not giving you the flight rights because you want to avoid Belarus on the way here. So flights got canceled, and it's becoming a mess. It's, I mean, I don't know. It's just, I
mean, it's not just a symbolic gesture. There's economic implications for Belarus because for every plane that flies over, even if they don't land, Belarus takes a fee. Yeah. And so the EU and UK and I think a few other countries, their decision to do this collectively was in its essence an economic sanction.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the numbers were huge, but it was so in that sense it was symbolic. But I think that's why Russia has done what they've done. But yeah, you're right.
And the UK and the EU have also, and probably other, I didn't check, but of course we're closer, have also banned Belavia, I think is the name of the airline, to come to. So here's a tit for that. And it's the major... The foundational problem is also, I think it's one of the rule of the airspace by ICAO that you shouldn't do that. So this is even before being an economic sanctions, you're not just allowed to do that. So there, hence these decisions. But yeah, it shouldn't. I think Walsh, who's now heading IATA, is criticizing actually the decision of banning overflights, saying that it shouldn't be a political decision, but it should only be a safety decision. Isn't that a safety decision? I don't know, because
one could very, very reasonably argue that if you are a critic of the Belarusian government or the Russian government, even if they are as incouth as they seem to be, that's a genuine safety risk. And if they're going to use this big stick approach of scrambling fighters to bring I think that sounds like a safety risk to me.
Yeah, and maybe now Ryanair will introduce a new fee, which is a new section. Is a no
Make avoidance
exactly
fee.
no kidnap fee, maybe, or so you pay an extra fee and you're insured to go to your destination.
I'd pay it.
What?
I'd pay it.
Or there was this, that's not me, that I found this joke. Dear President Lukashenko, that's the president of Belarus, my mother-in-law will be on Ryanair flight 1268 from Paris to Moscow. I'll be flying over Belarus at about 8 p.m. I definitely heard or criticized your regime during Sunday lunch last week. You are most welcome. So let's send people we don't like over Belarus so they get diverted. No, that's just a stupid joke. But yeah, it's not really it's not really fun. Hold on. What do I want? Yeah, talking about Russia, I read yesterday a very interesting article that because you said that everybody and their grandmother was flying in the US. It seems that we're still not at the numbers, of course, pre-pandemic in the US, but of course it's taking off, no pun intended. Russia, I didn't know that Aeroflot had a low-cost arm called Pobedo, I think. And so they're redeploying a lot of routes, of course, domestically, because they have this huge domestic market, although it's sparsely populated in some parts. The load factors of that low-cost arm of Aeroflot are 98 to 99%. It's insane. So it's like pre-pandemic for them already there. It's crazy. And the reopening route, I think it was Reuters that called it Soviet-era route. I don't know what that actually means, but
yeah, what does
I don't know. But probably that the flights they had stopped taking since then. But yeah, so good for them, I guess, in terms of load factors, because in Europe we haven't seen that happening yet.
No.
I took some notes, and of course they're all in a mess, so I don't know where I am. A few feedback. Taking a few, because again, I told you guys I'm not reading everything, though we really appreciate all the time you're taking.
Absolutely.
But I'm not really on social media, but I'm going to use the network I truly don't like, which is LinkedIn, because we got 2 messages on LinkedIn. So I was there and I saw those messages. I replied, thank you. There's first Dominic, who said, I'm thrilled the Layovers podcast is back. Thanks for all you do. As an AV geek, it's great to hear such relaxed yet intelligent commentary. I kind of like that. This is what we try to.
That's very I don't think I've been called either of those things in a very long time, so I'll take it.
So he has a company, Soar Events DC. So he's in DC actually. I haven't asked him. That actually caters about events in mixing with his love of commercial aviation. So Dominic, thank you so much. And Michael Russo, also on LinkedIn, said, so glad to see you podcasting again. He's an international flyer like us, and he's a big fan. So thank you so much for this. On Twitter, it was just yesterday. It was from Lucid Alchemist. By the way, loved the last 2 Layovers podcasts. Made me feel like life was returning. I don't know if we are a good barometer for that.
No.
No.
I guess maybe just because we used to always be there in the good old days, quote unquote, and now we're back. Maybe not necessarily talking about the things we used to talk about, but we are back.
And he's doing his first international flight in 18 months this Thursday. We're recording, by the way, on Wednesday, the 9th of June, which means you'll get this episode on the Wednesday of 9th of June. He's doing a travel bubble between Sydney to Auckland on Air New Zealand.
That's exciting.
That's amazing, man. I wish we could do that. We have kind of a travel bubble, unless you're in the UK, because there's no bubble at all. We'll come to that a bit later as well. But we can travel between London to Edinburgh. I think that's a travel bubble.
That's about it.
Exactly. And Alex Green on Instagram sent us what used to be something that we would ask, even a picture of him listening to Layovers. Is it the 109? Yeah, 109 episode. And he says, first flight in 19 plus month, Denver to Koa. Koa. What is that? Koa?
In Hawaii.
Oh yeah, of course. On a United Airlines 757. Glad your guys are back. again, thank you. I mean, it seems that the trend, I said it in the previous episode, that everybody hasn't taken a flight for 18 months and suddenly travel again, which is a good sign. I haven't done so yet, but it's a good sign. I like that.
It is a good sign.
And we got finally an extremely touching message. I'm not going to read it out because it's very personal. I already shared it with Alex by Arlie Wheeler. Was it? I think it's on Instagram, or is it on Twitter? No, I don't remember. ACW3RD. So is that awkward? Probably. Is that what you're going for, Arlie? So I don't want to share it, but he's been working on the front line of the health crisis. And we are the guys. So he's thanking us a lot for being companions throughout this very difficult time for him as being one of the frontline workers in healthcare. We want to say that we are the one admiring you because you are the person who is, and all your colleagues that have been on the front lines and truly making our lives possible. So we thank you. We're the ones eternally grateful for your contribution to all this. I'm really happy. We are really happy that you got an early, both your jabs, he's telling us, so life is returning to normal for him, and he got his first drink outside, so I hope you enjoyed that drink, and we hope to meet you somewhere, sometime for one of these drinks as well. So Godspeed. Thank you, Arlie, for that really touching message you sent us.
Yeah, and like you said, you shared it with me, and it was really sweet.
Yeah, it was really full of heart. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. But you know that usually by default, I assume that something that you send us is publicly announceable. But some of these, because they are very personal, I rather not. But thank you, Arlie. And finally, ORD to Anywhere on Twitter, a very long time listener. Listening to Alex describe his diversion day, which was in the previous episode, and realizing I'm 99% sure I was working on a flight into Texas that same day, 16 hours.
Oh, no way.
16 hours at work and getting to my hotel at 4 a.m. So, yeah, you might have crisscrossed a path.
Yeah, and he was doing the hard part. I was just sitting there just stressing out that I was going to... Yeah, but he was doing... the actual work, so I have no right to complain.
And also RD to Anywhere. I don't know your name. I think you only called RD, so I'm going to call you RD to Anywhere. Or he's asked me to do an episode where I would go back to my predictions of, what was it, 105? I mean, the episode when I spoke for 2 hours alone, and see if I was right. I think I was mostly right. I might do one, but I hesitate because simply also Alex was not there, so I don't want to talk about me. But at some point, maybe we'll do a recap. What we thought what would happen.
Oh, I definitely think you should do that.
Yeah, but with you, I don't want to do it alone. I mean, now that I have you back.
We can make it like some kind of game show with prizes and then...
Yeah, we'll probably do another episode with some of our listeners at some point, and maybe we could intertwine that in there. One realization, the logo again, I'm coming back to that logo. Oh, snap. I started watching this new TV show. I don't know if it's that new, but for a few months, called The Flight Attendant. I don't know if you've heard about it.
Oh, I've seen that advertised. It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, and then I just realized that our logo is very similar to that one, and I had no idea that I was doing something so similar, so... My God.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Anyway, yeah, it's not a big deal. The fun bit, so I haven't seen the entire show yet. I haven't seen a few episodes, so it's... It's supposed to be, she's supposed to be a first-class attendant in an airline. Of course, the airline is made up. What I like is that the first class is clearly, and it's unmistakable, it's a BA business class, the old one, if you want, or still current one, the weird, you're looking at your neighbor kind of seats. And I'm like, this is not really a first class seat, guy. You could have gotten better. But I thought, you know what? Because I started Googling it, I'm like, guys, did they get one of these parked airplane? Because, of course, BA did park and store aircrafts and ditch some. So maybe they actually used that. No, it was actually recorded in a set. And that was built in New York. So it's a soundstage. So they probably bought, I guess, some BA business seats from aircraft that was discarded, and they made it as a stage. So Alex, we have our next studio set. We need to go there to record layovers now.
There's a couple of companies, but there's one that's sort of semi-open to the public in LA for filming. and they have the whole cabin with first and economy and all the lighting rigs on the outside and everything like that.
No way.
I'd love to have it for an hour, just to go play with it, you know?
Exactly. So since we're talking about New York, the US, let's front with it. How was that trip with your mother? Did you feel like a teenager again, or a kid perhaps again, Alex? How was it?
Oh, yeah. And my mom and I were talking that I hadn't flown with her since I was probably, certainly alone with her since I was like 15 or 16, but even just with her and maybe my father or brothers since I was about 21. And yeah, and I went with her because she was a little anxious. She's a seasoned traveler and has been her whole life, but she hadn't flown in a long time like the rest of us and was just anxious about the protocols and the paperwork and, all of that stuff. So I said, she asked me if I would go with her, and I said, of course. And I'm very, very glad I did because as I've mentioned in the past couple of episodes, every time I travel, and just in between the US and the UK, some piece of the process changes significantly.
Yeah.
And, you and I, and probably a lot of people listening to this, we have enough sort of our ears to the ground of the industry that we hear people talking about these little changes, and we keep it on, we know what, but I can't imagine that people are enjoying this process at all. So even being able to go into the first wing at Terminal 5, the lady that was helping us, it was her first day back from furlough in a year.
Oh, wow.
And she got confused about the paperwork and the Verifly app, which I've spoken about, and one, offsetting the other. And I was like, no, you have to click the thing no, not that one, that one. And then she had to call up to her supervisor and say, what am I supposed to do here? And my mom was getting anxious. What's going to happen? I thought this was all fine. And eventually it was all cleared up. But it was stressful. It took about 5 or 6 times longer than it should have, even though my Verifly app worked. Hers didn't. Like, it took forever to review the COVID results. It never actually worked. They don't have the Department of State, I think it is, piece of paper where you sign saying, I promise, pinky swear I don't have COVID at the check-in desks. Really complicated.
Yeah, I realize. Not as before where you just basically show up with your boarding pass.
You just show up, and it's completely different. They ask a lot of questions that, anyway, I managed to get her into the lounge where she drank copious amounts of champagne.
Good.
Yeah, because they're doing champagne now because it's post May 17th.
Yes, I'm jealous.
So
it doesn't taste the same in a lounge or in the air that it tastes at home. It's not.
I agree, because you've earned that.
Right.
When you've gone through all of the rigmarole of the COVID. But when she was sitting there, I snuck over to the customer service desk and I asked about paid upgrades. And I bought her a business class upgrade because I wanted her to be comfortable. And my mom does so much for me, especially over the last 18 months. And I told her, and she was absolutely furious.
What?
Just enraged that I would do something, so capricious. But it was worth it. And
good.
She enjoyed it, and she really enjoyed walking underneath the terminals. We were out in the sea gates, and she was well up for it. She's a big walker.
Good.
And the flight was busier than I've seen them in a while out to San Francisco. But at the gate, the BA are still, and admirably so, very strict about boarding from the rear of the airplane forward. If you try, they kick you out of the queue. There's none of this like, oh, well, you're in with all the gold or whatever. No gold, no nothing.
It's fine.
So I was in economy, so I boarded quite a long time before her. And I got on the plane, and the flight attendant looks at me and I look at him, and we do the Spider-Man meme where we just look at each other and point and go, oh my God, it's you. And it was this guy that I have had maybe on 3 of my last 5 flights.
Nice.
And he's like, you're back. And I'm like, yeah. Which kudos to the guy, because they must see all these people just recognizing me with my mask on and all that. And he's like, where are you sitting? And I said, I'm in 33. And I said, but look, my mom's in 13, whatever she was, Jay. She hasn't flown in a long time. Can you just check in on her every now and then? He's like, absolutely no problem. We'll take care of her, I promise.
Amazing.
So we're sitting there, and this guy brings me back the bedding from first class because I had a row of the 3.
Nice.
Which was great because I was looking forward to sleeping a little bit because it's a long, boring flight.
Yeah, it is.
The lady, French lady actually, who was running the economy cabin, brought me champagne from first class.
That's nice.
And this chap who I saw, he's like, hey, I made the case to get you upgraded to be with your mom, but the boss said no. And he was like sort of a little upset. He's like, I tried, and I'm like, you guys never do that.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Exactly.
I've got 3. You're looking after me. I've got the bedding. I'm going to sleep. You know, I'm fine. Just
take care
do me
of
a
her.
favor and take care of her.
Yeah.
And then
nice.
about 45 minutes after takeoff, got myself all set up. You know, got my iPad and my first class champagne. The cabin service manager, I think that's what they call themselves now, comes back and he's like, oh, don't worry, we're looking after your mom, and it's really nice what you did for her. And then he pauses and looks at me and says, you should probably go and join her.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's nice. Amazing. I love it.
So,
yeah.
And it was just that way of doing it, you know. So they took me up there and got me all set up and fed me, and they doted on my mother the whole flight. You know, they called her she's like, oh, I'm just checking in on our royalty over here. And they were so kind and so, when BA are on, they are truly world class. And
true.
That's what this
We've
was.
always said that. This is not the pandemic. It's always said that. They can have gaps at times. When they're good, they're freaking good.
It was just this. I mean, the food hasn't changed much. The IFE is still pretty pared down, as I've said in the past. It was the old herring. It was a 7879. So it was the old. What do they even call those? The inverted Club World.
Yeah, the one
seats.
the one I just mentioned, the one we see each other.
Yeah,
like
i.e. not the suites.
Yeah.
But just the human touch. The amount of people that came to check on us, nothing was too much. I was just so impressed with them, and it just made my mom relax, and she was able to get some rest. But, of course, having said to her, it's so easy at San Francisco. You get off the plane, and I mentioned this on the last episode. There's not a soul anywhere until you get to immigration. Not this time.
Oh.
The whole jet bridge lined with CDC representatives and full PCP.
Oh, wow.
Checking your paperwork. They looked at me and said, are you traveling alone? And I said, no, I'm with my mother. And they're like, okay, carry on. Wow. And my mom's like, well, why didn't they want to see our paperwork? And then immigration was easy. But it just kind of reinforces my point and my worry that what happened last month isn't necessarily what's going to happen this month. And I think I'm going to be saying that at least through the rest of the year.
Yeah, a lot. I think this situation is very dynamic. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about it later. And also they are, fair enough, they are also fine-tuning all those procedures with, Verify and other apps are coming into line and finding what's the best way, and also having to cope with an increasing number of passengers. It's not the same when you have a flight. You mentioned yourself, there were flights when they would maybe had 20 people or 10 people. It's not the same as suddenly you have 100 and then 150 and then some point 300. Then you maybe have to adapt the way you do that. And it's going to be a struggle for some airports and some border authorities to have to find the right. I mean, at some point, again, because of the vaccine, we could get out of here. But this transition period, I think you'll see a lot of different, varied procedures being tested, trialed. Mistakes happen. Yeah, that's for sure.
I think also rustiness in service. Like the flight back, I bought an upgrade because they're still reasonably good value for money.
Still with BA then?
Still with BA. I wanted to sleep. And I did that because economy there was no free rows.
Okay.
So there was always somebody window and aisle. And just as an aside, the BA SFO check-in agents, who are also the gate agents, they do double duty, are always so good and so friendly. The flight was busy, and it was starting to bring out the worst in people. I saw a physical fist fight. Oh my God. Yeah, at check-in, I think the lady even said, "Don't you know who I am?" And I was standing next to a lady waiting to talk to and I just said, I just kind of hoped that after all this, we wouldn't be such jerks.
Well, apparently human nature reverts back to its worst very easily. There's been a lot of, I was not planning to mention that in this episode, but there's been a lot of stats about disruptions and between people not wanting to wear masks, people wanting to be freaking completely wasted in flights. And that's not only in the US, by the way, that happen all around. And I mean, there's the anxiety, which is understandable, but that shouldn't lead to physical fights, insults, and etc. And I mean, the US is taking a pretty harsh stance. You ban from flying airlines ever again. I mean, they don't share between airlines, but you're blacklisted. You have very high fines now by the if you don't respect, which is fair enough. But it's sad that we have to get there.
I think maybe we even mentioned this last episode, but Southwest for sure, and maybe American, have delayed the reintroduction of alcohol sales on their flights. They
banned alcohol for a while. They haven't said when they're going to bring back, because they have had way too many of their crew, of their staff, of their flight attendants being assaulted. There was this, I think, was it Southwest actually, when there was this video running around. I tried to avoid it, but I ended up seeing it with the poor flight attendant was hit in the face by a moron. And you're like... You know, it's one thing to complain or to have anxiety, and and sometimes service is not good. And I'm here not talking about that Southwest example. And by the way, happy birthday to Southwest. I think they're turning 50. Yeah, I think so. But that kind of behavior, these behaviors existed before because we talked about them over and over. But it seems, I don't know, it's because we have a loop and there's more happening because less passengers or people. I don't know, but it feels that there's a lot of tension. More stories coming from the US, to be fair, because I think also because way more people are traveling in the US because there's a domestic market as ORD2 Anywhere. I think I said that, maybe I didn't say, maybe it was one of my webinars, that it's obvious that countries that have domestic markets will be the first ones to, because there's not going to be a lot of restrictions between, inside of a country, right? Yeah. Europe, of course, is different for that reason. So, yeah, it's a bit sad. But anyway, so was your flight back good, however?
Yeah, it was. So the business class cabin was completely full.
Wow.
And you could tell that the crew hadn't had that experience in a long time because the service was ropey, and slow, and sort of harry. I mean, they were nice enough, and I slept like a log.
Good,
but you could see, there's going to be this period where they get back used to having
full service cabin. With a lot of full cabin. Yeah. A lot of people are. I mean, we're going to talk again a bit about this later when we talk about the UK situation. But it's true that the UK doesn't preclude Americans from entering. The other way around is still the case.
Which is why the business class cabin on the way over was very empty.
Exactly. I think that matters a lot in the load factors, on which way there's lots of calls for both being open. Of course, there's a variant. Again, we're going to talk maybe about that later, but it's true that probably for you always see a difference in...
I mean, I sent you this message, I think, as it was happening, but this is the sort of the punchline to this rather long story, is that when I got to Heathrow, and I looked at the line for immigration, I was like, oof, this is the longest I've seen it since I've been back. Mm-hmm. But I was through in 10 minutes.
Good. At T5 then, right?
At T5, because
he told me
they weren't checking documents.
Yeah, I mean,
not once. Not anyone. No passenger locator form. No COVID test result.
I know.
No confirmation of day 2 and day 8 booking. Not once. Straight to the e-gates.
I mean, you can. It's preposterous. We can debate what is a good procedure, but saying you have one and then not doing it is just silly.
Yeah. Someone had obviously made the call. They'd seen this and said, "Just let them through, boys."
Well, good for you. Look, that's all I say. Good.
That's kind of what I thought. Like,
Good for you. Well, exactly, good for you. But I'm happy that you did this flight with your mom. I know. I was also doing that. I've upgraded my dad quite a few times. It was like, come on, he never experienced that much business class. He needs to experience that. I mean, and he's old and whatever. And I remember flying once with him as well. It was one of the last flights before he passed away. And I was the dad and he was the kid.
That's nice.
You know what I mean? Like, because a bit like what you said, at least in the airports, you way around how it works. You're kind of used to this, where maybe here your mother or my father wasn't, and so that was kind of nice. It's a bit of always a reversal. It's very sweet. It's
a nice thing to finally be able to do for your parents. You know,
right?
I have to share this with you, both you, Paul, and everybody listening. Above me, I have a huge skylight.
Yeah,
and right now, I can see two beautiful contrails flying over me, and I have my little ADS receiver, and it's what the hell is that? It's an American Airlines going from Athens to Chicago. That's a Dreamliner, and a Aer Lingus A319 going from Paris to Dublin. And I love that I can do that.
Yeah, I need to buy one of these.
Talking to me.
I need to buy one of these antennas. So I switched. Of course, people have no context. I used to have a skylight. I'm in the same attic, so I'm the other room. So I don't have, because it was getting too hot. So I switched to the other room.
That is the thing right now.
Because it's really hot, actually. That's why it's nice to record in the morning, because in the afternoons I feel like I'm in Dubai here. But I don't have the skylight, so I don't see these contrails, because I could also see them, especially some. I don't really have a view of the landings on over Heathrow here, because also they're only using the north runway for landings, which is further up from where I live. But I have sometimes departures, and I can see still. I'm like, this is a 321, or
nice.
This is a 747. These are very rare. I see them very, very, very few. I don't have any antenna. I just check on Plane Finder or Flight Radar 24. But yeah, it's nice. Nature is healing, man. Nature is healing.
Exactly. The birds are back in the sky.
So one thing that you will soon see on your ADB and on your dashboard. I'm always curious about how that dashboard looks for someone who has the antenna. It must be different. JetBlue, as we talked about it, but has finally confirmed it's launching flights from New York to JFK to Heathrow. New York JFK to Heathrow. It will start on the 11th of August. And then they will follow up with flights from JFK to Gatwick on the 29th of September. So there's more to see on the ADB, but that's also nice to have them finally coming here.
I can't wait.
I think Boston will also be next. They haven't announced a date yet, but it's probable. So that's cool. I'm sure you're going to try this. And I've never set foot in a JetBlue aircraft ever. I really want to try that Mint and the new one, the really fancy.
The new one looks even better. I mean, the designer did, as always, a phenomenal review of it, which is worth checking out. Yeah, I'm a big fan of JetBlue, and an even bigger fan of that Mint product. So, and they're very competitively priced, aren't they, as well?
Yes, yeah.
As one would be when you're introducing something as revolutionary for yourself as this. Yeah. So jump on that.
And I've read somewhere that JetBlue will do co-chair miles with AA, which I don't know in which direction it will work, and I don't know how that will interplay with BA, because you and me have lots of miles of BA. I don't know if you now have miles on AA, but that could be also interesting to try to get stuff. I don't know. Let's see when they come, how that plays out, if there's possibility to use some miles, or at least accrue miles on good programs. We'll see how that happens. But I'm very much looking forward to it, although I don't think I'm going to fly to the US this year. It's going to be 2022. Maybe Biden will announce, he's coming to the UK, next week? No, this week. When is it?
Well, they just did the US just relaxed travel policy for 60 countries.
Yeah, but we're not one of them.
But not us.
No, because everybody. We'll talk about that slightly later on, guys. But we're paying a lot of stuff. But not only negative, by the way. But yeah, it's true that we're still a bit stuck. It's still a bit more complicated. It's going to last a few months. It's going to be all right. But yeah, I'm not flying to the US this year, I think. Plus, I've my business partners in the US. We do everything on Zoom. Which, God, can we not do Zoom? So, since we're at Heathrow, and you mentioned actually your arrival. First of all, I want to stress, because I don't think I've said it enough in the last episode, because I was a bit gobsmacked with what you described. The clearly racist treatment of some of the arrivals, and it's affected me. I thought about it a lot. I didn't realize, after you said it and after I released the episode, because, I'm from a family of refugees. I mean, not my parents, but my grandparents on both sides. And my father was spat on when he moved to Switzerland in the 50s because, people were very still, unknown foreigners, whatever. So I kind of claim to understand what people are going through in your example, but that still, for fuck's sake, it still maddens me. So, yeah, I hope that doesn't happen more. So you said lots of people at Heathrow. Have you seen that they are finally, because it was talking a lot, they are finally putting a dedicated terminal for red list arrivals, yes. Which is a mess. The way, because when you just say that, you're like, okay, why not mixing people. So red list arrivals, guys, are people coming that need to quarantine in a mandated hotel by the government because they're coming from a place that has either variants or something, whatever. They're dangerous. Oh, wow. And it was supposed to be T4, but they decided to do T3, which I thought they were opening for the general public soon, but apparently it's T3. Since then, I learn, and I don't know, it's crazy. So they open it for red list at T3. They're going to move to T4 in about 4 weeks, a month. But if you arrive, that's a crazy thing. If you arrive from a red list country at T5, you're being put on a bus that then goes to T3, but you're still waiting for the others at T5. I mean, it makes no sense.
What the hell is the point of that?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I assumed, and I think everybody probably did, that the plane would just go to T3, but I guess that thing's been mothballed for so long now that...
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It just seems that the implementation of what is not a bad idea not to have everybody mixed, we can discuss about the red list or not, is a bit all over the place. So one more for the mess at arrivals in the UK, which is a lot due to either, I don't know, understaffing or not wanting or too costly. I don't know. But anyway, it's not easy. They really don't want to make travel easy for a lot of people, I think. And something I also learned, you haven't gone through, and thank God, through these hotel quarantine that I just mentioned. It's actually 11 days. It's 10 days, but you need to spend 10 nights. So you leave on the 11th day. But, and that's what I didn't know, and I realized that the other day. Let's say you, Alex, come from a red list country, could be Dubai now. You land at 6. You clear customs at 9 because you need to freaking go to the queue, maybe go to that bus, etc. You wait for the bus that then drives you to the hotel, and apparently the wait times are pretty long because there's not enough buses. If you're checking after midnight, that's where the clock starts. So you're losing 1 day because you need the clock of your 10-day quarantine. So 10 nights in a hotel starts when you check in. So if you arrive too late and you're checking on the following day, you have 1 day basically added, which is unfair, I think, but apparently that's the rule.
That's insane.
Yeah, right.
I can't imagine having to do that.
No. I mean, honestly, you'd have to pay me a lot of money to go for us. It's valid to go to a conference to say, "Hey, Paul, can you speak?" and "Alex, can you speak?" And then I have to spend 10 nights in a hotel, which apparently the pictures that are not all great. Some of them are disgusting. They're not, as in not the hotels, but I think they're staffed by not the hotel staff, but by these third parties that run the hotel quarantine system. So they leave the trash in front of your door for 2 days. And I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. I think that some pictures are there, but meaning you would really have to pay me a lot of money to say, Paul, you're going to be stuck in a room with 15 minutes by day you can go out. 15.
Yeah. I would just lose my mind. I would lose my mind. I mean,
this is why I'm not
anybody listening has done it, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, Singapore does that. Of course, Australia does
21 days in Singapore.
Yeah, 20 exactly. So
forget it.
No. I mean, and I understand why they do it, but I'm not going to go through this. No way. No. I'd rather not travel. I'm going to stay home, right? I mean, at least in Taiwan, and that's one of the interviews that I had done last year and I haven't released, guys. That was Sharon. Hi, Sharon. She was explaining to me that in Taiwan, of course, it's very hard if you're a foreigner. She's Taiwanese. She lives in on the West Coast, San Francisco, and has, of course, a Taiwanese passport. You can choose the hotel. At least you have it's almost like you're booking a hotel the same way you would book when you visit. So you can go for a 5-star or you go to a 2-star, depending on your means, of course, but also depending on what kind of experience you want to be in for 14 days.
Yeah.
Anyway, I still on Heathrow. I read something that BA is going to be the first airline in Europe to test that new. It's called Qmatic, which is basically a digital queuing technology, which could help solve the surge of numbers of passengers and having to check all these forms on the way out. As in, you would pre-book your place in the queue when you arrive at Heathrow. So you know that, I don't know, if you have a flight at 8 p.m., you know that your place in the queue is at 5:15, so no need to arrive earlier than this. You just go and you're directly in a queue, numbered. So they try to limit, having massive queues. It's not a bad idea, and that's going to be trialed at Terminal 5. You will be able to pre-book this when you get, I think you're checking from BA or something. That's what I read or something. It's not a bad idea. What do you think?
No, I was just going to say, I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think people are, well, I was going to say, I think people are a little wary of queues, just being next to people. But if immigration at Heathrow has anything to go by, they sort of don't care. It's a necessary evil.
Yeah, but for me, it's more, I would welcome something like that more for the comfort. Because right now, for me, you said we're used to this, but now you are, in a way, used to travel through a pandemic, which I'm not because I haven't traveled. And I don't know, honestly, I would have called you. I mean, not called, no, who calls you people? I would have messaged you and asked you, how long before my flight do you think I should be in an airport? We're always early arrivers at the airport, but I have no concept of how long all this takes now that it's not showing up and going to a fast track, right? So having a queue at least tells me, oh, Paul, you're going to be at 4 p.m. That's your slot, Then I know that I need to arrive then, and I don't have to overthink or over worry about when is my. And for people that are not used to flying, I think it could be a very welcome and easy way to know when to arrive at the airport, and at the same time for the airport not to have to deal with mass crowds and then being criticized on social media, for instance. I don't know. It's not a bad idea, I think.
Yeah, and I think it would be I'm sure that they would segment it so you have a desk or two for people that have booked using this app at their appointment, and then for everybody else that just does it the normal way. So even doing that, you're separating out the crowds, which isn't a bad idea.
I think Seattle, what's the name, SeaTac, they have that for TSA. You can pre-book, guys. If you fly at SeaTac, I think that you can do that to pre-book your queuing for TSA. It's not a bad idea, I think, overall. And the bad news about Heathrow is that what we were talking pre-pandemic, you remember Amsterdam has these new scanners when you pass security that allow you to not put out your liquids and laptops and other stuff. Well, Heathrow just said that they're not going to buy them because they're not happy about the fact that they're not receiving enough money and they want to raise the fees. And they're like, you know what? F you, we're not buying them. You still have to use the old queues and put your stuff out. I think it's a bit of a power play.
I thought that you were going to say they weren't happy with the results and this was a security decision, but they're just complaining about money.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's complaining about money. And for you, Alex, I hope you get to try this. BA has also announced that on top of Verifly, is that the one you've been using?
Yeah.
They're going to start trialing on dedicated route, including to the US, the other one, which is the IATA Travel Pass, which is probably going to be the standard. We don't know yet, which is very similar. But I haven't tried it, obviously. So I know that Singapore Airlines and I think 25 airlines are already either trialing or have decided on the standards. So BA is going to trial that as well. I hope you get to try it to see if there's a difference or not with Verifly. I would really love, and we said both, to have one standard and not having 25 apps depending on which airline you're flying.
Yeah, it's definitely going in that direction where there's this real universe. Yeah, it's
so.
I don't
What
want to
about
be in that position?
what do you think about this whole situation with Amber in the UK with our lists? I mean,
I wouldn't want to be the person that has to figure this out and then justify it. Everyone, it was upset about Portugal being on the green list and then 3 weeks later coming off of it. But I think the people that were most upset about that were the people that were in Portugal and had to cut short their. And you can, from a personal inconvenience perspective, of course you can empathize.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I don't think there's anything that we can do about it at this point. They're going on the data that they have available. We see these variants, and how you interpret that data seems to change from government official to government official. That's not a criticism. It's just
I know
data can can tell stories. However you really want it to. But
yeah, it's. I think the foundational mistake is that they didn't really make it clear what it meant. As in, at first you said, okay, Amber means the consequences. If you fly from an Amber country, you need to self-isolate at home for 10 days. And trust me, I have a few friends who did that. They've been called every single day. They had 2 to 3 people showing up at their door. So I don't know if they can really do that for everybody because that maybe doesn't scale, but they are actually trying, unlike last year when they said, and basically no one was checking. If you fly from a red list, we said it's the hotel quarantine. And of course, green means no quarantine. And the thing that they didn't make clear is that people assume that, okay, well, if I want to go to like Spain, it's they don't accept British for the moment. But if I want to go to Spain, I know that the price to pay is that I have to self-quarantine on the way back, which could be acceptable for some people. The thing that came out a bit later is that suddenly they started to say, yeah, but no, we do not want you to travel to Amber List countries. So people were like, okay, so basically, you don't want us to travel, and you should have said that. And that was a lack of. I don't know if they changed their minds at the government. But it's not clear. I think the absence of clarity, which to some extent, and what you just said is right, is understandable because you were living this live, and we have to kind of cope with what the data tells us. Made a lot of people angry, right?
And I think it's that indecision that people have been upset about. May 17th, after May 17th, you no longer needed to provide a legitimate reason for travel. And people took that to, exactly. If I'm okay with isolating for 10 days or 5 if you do test to release,
I'm
fine.
okay. Yeah,
I'm okay with that. That's my problem. But then they came out and said, you really shouldn't be traveling to places on Amber, which at least thematically is a contradiction.
Yeah, that's the thing. It felt to me that, I'm going to call it, Boris is holding a door open whilst telling you not to go through. At the beginning, it was a bit like that, like, oh, here's Amber, but don't go there. That's so here. I'm not. It's easy to criticize. We're just armchair analyzing here. We don't have to deal with all these decisions. But it's true that some clarity, and other governments have had that as well, is a bit necessary. The fact that the UK is outside the EU, though, it makes a problem because the EU hasn't actually opened the borders to outsiders. They're starting now with the US if you double jabbed. But the UK, there's been lots of stories of people trying to go to Spain, trying to go to other countries. Let's not forget, I should maybe clarify that the EU, there's not a law, it's recommendations, and each EU member country can decide to follow it or not. But most have followed, which means that third countries, which we're part of now that we're not in the EU, we're not supposed to go, and unless you're a resident, or of course if you have the passport or EU passport. And a lot of people have been refused checking in the UK to leave to any place because the EU hasn't opened its external borders. So that adds to the confusion. People don't understand. But fair enough. At the end of the day, it's always a tango. It's easy to say, yeah, well, the UK has decided it's a green country. Yeah, but the other country can say, yeah, but no, we don't want you.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's the whole thing. again, like you can see no one has nailed this. Not a single country has nailed it, and you can criticize every nation's approach to it. You could say Australia is being, unnecessarily
Harsh.
Isolationist, and some of these other countries are being, a little bit too permissive. So
I think overall, my feeling is that overall in 2020, in the first part of this, East Asia, Oceania, APAC basically was correct.
Yes.
The problem is they missed the second bit, which is like now really do vaccine. Because if you don't do the second step, then you'll be out of sync as well. So it's really hard because nobody seems to have figured this out. And it's hard. I mean, again, it's easy to be here sat in both of our attics and just saying, oh, this is how it should be, right? So
yeah.
It's going the right direction. I really, truly think that we are going to go through this and it's going to be better. But it's still a few months of uncertainty and tension and complaining as well from some people. I get it. In the industries, some of the people are on their knees. So I also understand why they're very vocal against those decisions of Amber, etc., because they're like, we're running out of money.
Yeah.
We need to have people in our planes, otherwise we'll have an issue, right? So it's I do understand. The other thing that I've read as well, did you continue using the same provider for the tests that you were using?
Yes.
Did they get more delays suddenly, or is it still very good?
Well, it's very interesting that you should ask because 2 minutes before we started recording, I just finished jamming the stupid thing up my nose while some lady and wherever she was watched me do it. For the
flight this weekend.
Yeah, I don't have COVID. So okay, I can't really see that, but I don't. It's almost like it's censoring it when the reflection. I got my result. So you wait 15 minutes, you email them. I got the results within minutes.
Okay.
But I am hearing more and more people having, waiting longer. And I've had times where it's taken 6 or 7 hours, if not longer.
Yeah, because there's a lot. So the UK, again, guys, is for context, because we're very UK-centric right now, the discussion, sorry for that, because we live here. The UK has a official list of providers, private providers, where you can do these tests inbound. So when you come back to the UK, for instance, you have to do these, we said, day 2, day 8, and day 5 optionally. And they have, of course, an officially recognized list. And the issue is that with numbers of people rising, it's already at the brink, as in labs cannot follow the numbers, and we're still at very, very low numbers. So a lot of people are saying at some point it will break, because if you need to wait for too long to get the result, then you cannot board, or you can, et cetera, and that creates a lot of consequences, which is, I don't know, I just read a lot of, like you just mentioned, I read a lot of stories of people saying that you need to be very careful about getting the choosing rightly which lab to go with, and apparently, go Trustpilot and all these things, because some of them are very slow, whilst others, apparently the one you're using, are okay, and you can actually do it all normal.
Yeah, it's interesting because I saw a Flyer Talk thread on the BA subforum about this particular company, which is Cured with a Q.
Cured, yeah.
And generally people were positive about their experience, very positive actually. But there was, I think, 1 or maybe 2 people that said, I never got my result, which makes me wonder if there was a human error. I did have to wait about 9 minutes past my scheduled appointment time for the person to actually pop up. That was rare. It's usually been 2 or 3 minutes before. So and the lady did say we're seeing so much more volume lately, and they ran out of tests, but it's only £39 per kit, Yeah,
it's not, that's a good price. I know the only country that beats, not the only, it's, prices are super different depending on the country you're in. I think in Japan, they're like $3.15, crazy amounts of pricing.
And they're not doing anything like we're doing here in the NHS, where you can just nip into your own chemist and they'll give you a pack of 10.
Yeah. I ordered tests, some actually. I got some, to try what the hell is all these tests, and because I don't fly. France is actually providing all the PCR for free. They're subsidizing every single test for free, which is cool. But of course, you end up paying that with your taxes. But obviously, a lot of people in the industry are calling for the UK to do that. I don't believe it will happen. I just hope that the price over time, because there's more people, there's more competition. So if tests are going for a little while, I don't think they could be forever, but that the prices go down. And we already saw that. I think the prices are going down already. There are some of them are still very expensive. Expensive in a way that if you book a flight with Ryanair for €20, £20, whatever, and you multiply that by 4 with a family of 4, and then you have to do day 8, day 2, day 5, 2 PCRs, etc. That suddenly goes very, very quickly much higher, and so low-cost travel is not really low cost anymore, right?
No, and that's, my going into the US, any child over 2 needs to have a negative.
What?
Yeah, so it's
wow
11 coming back. So when I take my kids in a month to California for the summer, I have to do. I've given my daughter tests before because of going back to school.
Cool, yeah.
And my boys are old enough to understand it, but it's not. They're gonna have to watch me like torture my children live on a webcam to do this.
I want the footage.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's what math. It's £200.
Wow.
No, it's not. Whatever 39 times 4 is.
Yeah. I'm not a human calculator. Yeah. That's why I went into marketing.
Not a small amount of money.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Numbers are hard.
No, it's absolutely not. Anyway, well, yeah, it's but at least some people are flying in Europe, but it's still very, very low, though. I loved since you just mentioned Portugal that opened and then reclosed. There was a journalist from LBC, that's a big radio station here in the UK, that took the flight and was kind of live tweeting the flight. And
I missed this.
When they were about to depart, the actual announcement on the PA was, this isn't a kindergarten. This is a 2-hour flight. If you can't wear your masks, you will be starting your holiday in Portugal in a police station. Apparently, some people were like, yeah, freedom, we go to holidays. And they were already kind of...
ruining it for everybody else.
Did you see, and then I'm going to maybe stop talking about UK. Did you see, I hope you didn't, because the Dominic Cummings, the special consigliere for the government who got fired, spilled all the beans of what happened in 2020 on the pandemic. You can believe him or not, but one thing he said, he called the UK border system a joke, because fundamentally there was no proper border policy because the Prime Minister never wanted a proper border policy. And I actually tend to believe him on that. Yeah,
it was almost sort of...
Let's pretend we do something, but we don't, because they never actually wanted to do anything.
You have this permeable border through obfuscation and distraction and traffic light systems and policies and no policies.
Apologies to your brother. I think your brother, and maybe you are too. I think your brother, pretty sure, is a Fulham fan for football.
Yes, all 3 of us are.
I'm Chelsea, so I'm very happy because they won the Champions League, obviously.
I am too. They've got a couple Americans.
And what was funny is that happened in Portugal, and I read that it was supposed to happen in London because there's 2 UK teams. The only reason the UEFA, which is the body for football in Europe, refused to do it in the UK is that the UK said, yeah, we can do it here, but no one is coming in. And they said, no, we need supporters. Yeah, well, but at least it was a nice final. I'm sorry for the Man City guys, but I'm very happy that the Blues won. So you know what? When the first time they won is the year I arrived in the UK in 2012. So that was kind of the welcome for me in the UK. And now they won in 2021, which kind of means that life is returning to normal and probably have a good... I was saying earlier that we're paying the UK for being refused by a lot of countries. There's now quarantine to enter Germany, enter Switzerland, enter France, enter Denmark, and God knows how many other countries. Funnily enough, the south of Europe says, no, you can if you want, because, of course, tourist money. Well, that's... And I say we're paying, of course we're paying because probably, or maybe because of that border policy we just mentioned. But one thing the UK does very well, let's admit it, is this genomics detection. So actually detecting variant. I think we're doing 5 times more than the second country. I don't remember which one that is. And on average, 50 times more than the rest of the world. So obviously we get to discover variants. And now we have this, need to call it Delta. Mm-hmm. And that's why a lot of people are closing us, which it seems a little bit of a deja vu. But I think it'll be okay in the next 2 to 3 months because basically we're vaccinating everyone. So
yeah, and the data is showing that hospitalizations among those who have the Delta variant that have been vaccinated is less than 1%.
Yeah. After 2 doses, I think both Pfizer... I'll tell why I don't like to talk about vaccines, the brands, but the 2 ones we've been using since the start, AstraZeneca and Pfizer, are equivalent. After 2 doses, you're basically protected, so it's fine. Some of the people here only have 1 shot, so that they're accelerating the second shot for those. They open to plus 25, so it's going to be fine. It's just a few months. But when I say we're paying is that because we're detecting earlier, some other countries, of course, understandably are freaked out. Oh, there's a new variant. Let's close. Let's ask quarantine from UK travelers, and then we're paying for it because you and me cannot travel to those countries. And the same story will happen like last time. Those countries a month later will say, "Oh, we have it here as well." It is not a shade on those countries, but
I'm confused by this because it's so obviously understood when you describe it like you did that we're discovering them. We are not patient zero for the variants.
No, that's the thing.
You know, and I think that the sort of heavy-handedness of punishing the UK has smacks of Eurovision all over it. You know, it's like. Let's find a way to.
You went there.
Let's find a way to screw with the Brits.
Come on, the Swiss should have won.
But in all seriousness, we're not the sort of, like I said, the breeding ground for all of them anyway. And we're, as you said, so good at the genomic sequencing to find these variants, because we do the day 2 and the day 8 for anybody that comes in. Even if you test out.
And everything is analyzed. Sorry to Avin.
Everything is analyzed. Even if you test out, get a negative test on day 5, which you pay extra for, and they call you, say you need to still do it because we use it for these variant testing. It's something that I think the UK has not patted itself enough on the back for. No. This.
I mean, we did a lot of mistakes and a lot of F-ups. Border policy was one. A lot of things went wrong, but there's that thing. I mean, and actually in the scientific community, I work for a project with one of the big universities here in London. UCL. They are not admired. That's not the right term, but they're like, yeah, this is what we should be doing. We should be knowing to monitor what's actually happening, and then of course it makes the headlines and people get freaked out. I don't think. I mean, this variant. First discovered in India, so now Delta is, yes, more problematic. Is it a new pandemic? I don't believe so. And most people, I think, because of the vaccine. I still understand the knee-jerk reaction of other countries who say, oh, we'd rather close. I think Austria even went further. They just banned all flights coming from the UK. It's not even quarantine. They say, no flights are coming in. I get it, right? And I get it. So, but at the same time, it's a bit being here. I'm like, oh, okay, I cannot go to Switzerland until God knows when. So I'll wait. At some point, though, the system of 2 jabs being able to travel will happen, and probably with the US as well. So we're just waiting. It's now a matter of month, maybe by the end of the summer or something. We'll have a system that if you have double jab, you should be okay. But we're still waiting. It's still a talk for the moment, right?
I think that's the murky thing. I was talking to my brother yesterday about this, is that we've been saying for 18 months now, that'll all be over in a couple of months, and
exactly. It's never over before it's over.
We're getting this sort of fog of solution now, which is kind of ironic, really, that there's so many ways to solve this, and everyone's solving it in their own ways. Post-vaccination, COVID world.
Yep.
That I think it's going to get messier before it gets easier.
Yeah. And it's never over before it's over. And if there's one thing, I think I said it all too many times. If we learn something, it always takes longer than we believe. Everything.
Absolutely.
From implementation to procedure for testing to get everything that we talk about here. And that's back to the comment from anywhere. So what are the predictions? Yeah, I was talking about that in March. Some of the things we're talking about were true. It's just that it takes freaking a long time to make them happen. We knew that a health visa, COVID passport, whatever you want to call it, was probably the solution, but it just takes time for people to accept it, for airlines to accept it, for government to accept it, to put it in place, etc. And then, but that's why I'm still hopeful. It's getting closer to the light at the end.
Yeah, I will continue to be the canary in the coal mine for this stuff and regularly test out procedures and come back bruised and battered and report about my experiences.
Yeah, I mean, this is so the show. We should rename it the show of learning how to fly between the UK and the US, because you really have a trove of information and of tips for our listeners. Because you guys in the US were listening, and you're our biggest audience. You can actually come to the UK now, whereas we still cannot, unless you're like Alex and has a US passport. It's still very difficult for us to go to the US. But you are welcome. Bring your cash. To make the economy better.
Stimulate our economy, please.
Buy seats and buy hotel rooms. I just said, I know I'm going to be pontificating for a second. I just said I don't like to talk about vaccines brands, and I'm sorry, I need to apologize on the air, because I in the 2 episodes where we recorded, I cut you exactly when you were starting talking, and I know it was not your intent. You were wanting to talk about Sinopharm in the UAE. Sorry, the last one. It's not really, sorry, man. It's more than I feel. I mean, first of all, we're not scientists, fair enough. We can read a lot, but we're not. But it feels to me that having a discussion of which brand of vaccines do you want is a very, very, very first world problem, where most of the world doesn't have access to a vaccine, whichever brand that is, whichever maker that is. And also, most of the countries, actually, you cannot choose. You just take what it's there, which both of us did, by the way. This is exactly how we... And so... And it's not here to hear it's not about what Alex said. It's in general, because I've had a little messages, but do you think this? And I'm like, guys, at the end of the day, most of the world is still waiting for a vaccine. Most of the world needs to they all work, whether the ones I mentioned, Moderna as well, they work. There's a lot of communication branding issues, and people think that one is better than the other, and that's they freaking do work. They all have 100% non-hospitalization. There's going to be a few cases, of course, because when you vaccinate billions of people, there's going to be stuff that happens to our bodies, and there's going to be, I'm not talking, I'm not here saying everything is perfect, and guys, I'm not going to go too long into that. But I'm part of the after effects for a vaccine. I've had stuff myself, so I know, and I'm still pro-vaccine. So this is just a reason I want to avoid to talk about, we should choose this one because it's better. I'm like, first of all, we don't know, because we're learning with real-life data. And actually, the data in the UK, which is absolutely real-life, shows that everything is working. Every single one that we have there. That we have here, sorry. So I'm like, this is why because I've got, again, a few messages. I don't want to talk about which one, etc. I will say, however, what is very interesting is that the US, now people are flying to the US. I don't know how it works, because I've read an article the other day. The US has more vaccine than people now, availability. And so people are doing vaccine tourism, and especially because of that one that needs only one shot. Because if you have to do two travels, you have to wait there. And I read that some of states in the US are starting to open for people, maybe from Mexico, I don't know, for people to come to get their shot, like, CVS or whatever. And that's, I guess, a business model. I don't know.
It definitely seems to be a business model, for better or worse.
Yeah.
I think, when you have a healthcare system that is built on consumer choice, that unfortunately was an inevitability. Whereas here and most other countries, it's like you're going to get what we've got for the greater good.
Interestingly, did I say that already? I forgot. Interestingly, I think it's a database problem. You know, the UK has everybody registered, so it's easy to say, oh, now it's the 40 plus, and now it's 39 to 40, and now it's 25 to 26, which is the case this week. Because we have the data on everybody. Whereas in the US, there's no such thing, so you're like, oh, well, you know what? Come.
Yeah.
Open the floodgates. And yeah, I guess it's fine. Both are fine because we end up in the same situation. I mean, one is more orderly. I mean, you know, the British love to queue, so it works, I guess. Alex is smiling when I say that.
Yeah.
I love to queue as well now because, first of all, because I'm Swiss probably, but also because I live here, so I'm queuing like everybody else. What do you think about this? I call them Elf Visa, but vaccine passports. Did you have to show your QR code on your NHS app yet or not?
No, because I've only had one so far, and that won't get me in anywhere.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah. You need.
But I've seen. I mean, I pulled up the NHS app, and sure enough, there's the batch number and the date and all of that stuff of when I got my first one.
Now there's a QR code. If you check, you can check. There's a QR
there is a QR code.
I guess that will be used to scan at the airports at some point.
Yeah, I would imagine it shows basically what's written out there in English for us non-computers to read as well. I think it's been interesting to see recently, as you mentioned earlier, some countries now saying if you are vaccinated, you can come in, and you know that's going to be policy for a while now, I would imagine. And how we prove it is going to be, you know, another set of these challenges in this sort of obfuscation of the app landscape. And what if you don't have, you know, as a piece of paper, if you're a
it's fine. Luddite. I think so Europe has just launched its own. I think it's only live in 7 countries. Alex is being blinded by the sun. I can see him. Thank God you're wearing a white shirt.
Yeah.
Mostly I think it's Poland, Bulgaria, Greece. These countries it's live. The west part of Europe is not fully live, but it's about to get live. And for those who don't have a smartphone or don't want, you can have the QR code printed out, and there are alternatives. And by the way, it's not only vaccine; it can be proof of a test, because some people cannot get vaccinated, or proof for a test, or if you have antibodies as well. So you can, if you prove that you've had COVID recently enough, I guess, you have enough antibodies. I don't know exactly how it works. That's also permitted in the past. I think the UK is going along this. The systems will be probably, hopefully at least, compatible.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a fact of life for a while to have.
I think that you'll see a lot of places adopting this idea of
course,
you need to prove you've been double vaccinated and probably have a negative test.
Yeah, Asia for sure. I think maybe, look, the EU is doing it. I was thinking that the EU, between the EU wouldn't happen, so I don't know if it will happen, but they have clearly put the thing in place. So, yeah, well, maybe it's just, you know, if everybody gets vaccinated by 2023, then we don't need it anymore. I mean, if there's enough people, then the pandemic dies, even if some people aren't, because it cannot just circulate. But at least for a little while, we might have to have this. It's another app. I don't care really myself, you know. I mean, from that I've had the yellow fever thing on the yellow card to have with me, and I don't know. Like if you're in healthcare, you have to have the hepatitis B vaccine. It's mandated. So I'm like, I don't see what all the fuss is about. I mean, and there are ways, again, for those who cannot get vaccinated, there are ways.
You've always been able to.
So
exactly.
It's not also like some kind of I don't know. Anyway. I think it's going to happen. I think the Dubai airports, I read that, the Dubai airport's chief, I don't have his name in front of me, so I don't know how it's called. He said that's the only way to restart international travel. He doesn't see an alternative, and I think he's right. I think there's just no other way. I'm just a bit worried for the moment, and I hope that's going to be solved as well. I don't know if you've seen that. The EU has said that they will accept fully jabbed from vaccines that they've approved, which means that somebody who's got a vaccine in the Middle East or in Asia or Latin America that is not one of the 3 currently, or maybe 4 approved in Europe, cannot, and that will prove to be a problem. I hope that this gets solved, because that's an inequality, meaning that if you have, I don't know, Sinopharm, because that's the one you mentioned, you cannot be entering Europe, and that's a bit. I understand they need to make some tests or something, or validate it, but
I mean, if there is an agreed upon standard for the efficacy that they have then since approved, and if those vaccines that you're referring to meet that standard, then they will at some point be approved. But you're right, there will probably, and if they're not approved and they don't meet the standards, then they're not good enough.
Okay,
But you're right, there's going to be a window where people are double jabbed from those vaccines that are not approved, but the vaccine hasn't been approved, they can't come in, even if.
And by the way, it does. Let's be clear. It doesn't mean, when they say not approved, it doesn't mean that the EU, for instance, in that instance, or the UK has, or the US hasn't approved them. It means that, because the way it goes is that the vaccine maker needs to seek approval. So if they don't seek approval, the whole system doesn't get into play to get the emergency approval. So it's not. Let's not read it into the EU refuses another vaccine. It's more like it needs to be happening. Sinopharm, for instance, I guess, I don't know exactly the details, but you know what I mean? It's not like, I don't think it's the EU trying to say, don't come here because we don't trust what you have. It's more like, guys, okay, so then get into the procedure so we can validate this, so can people. So it's a bit more murky than, Anyways, these are not
it's absolutely
fun.
Right.
These are not fun discussions.
They're conversations that we could never have foretold, and planned for with any sense of rigor at all. So we're kind of building the bridges we're driving, kind of thing.
I love that, building the bridges. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what we're doing. Yeah,
that's pithy enough to make me think I didn't come up with it first, but. It's an appropriate idiom.
The UAE is also has started a vaccine visa. So that's crazy. I read that 2 weeks ago. If you are a Chinese citizen and you are in the region, if you travel, so you can get a vaccine visa to get to Dubai to get vaccinated. So basically, Dubai has become a vaccination center for China, just that it is in Dubai, which is insane. And they're saying that they are opening soon the vaccine visa for countries that are either slow or too big of a population to get vaccinated fast. They're opening it within the next few months for other countries as well. So I think Emirates has a good business model here. You will bring people to Dubai just to get vaccinated. And by the way, enjoy the Burj Dubai and enjoy I don't know, some of the attractions and the good food. I think it's, why not, I guess. Why not? Yeah, I think it's
I also think it makes sense. And I think if you've got, it feels like one of those things that's less about money and more about time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought at some point I had vaccine FOMO. I will admit it. I was like, I was seeing my friends, because like we just said, the US was not going by age. So I was seeing friends younger than me getting it. And I'm like, why am I not getting mine? Right? I'm 45. Very privileged. Again, I realize that a lot of people listening, because I see the stats, are in countries where it's not even started. So pardon us for having that discussion. So I was thinking, I was like, should I go to another country? So Dubai was one, and Serbia in Europe was the one, because Serbia was actually from the start, they said whoever can, they were even like advertising to Germans or something. But then I was thinking, because of the discussion we just had of the vaccine passports, I hate that term, by the way, vaccine passport, because these are not passports. But anyway, I was like, if I get the vaccine abroad, then maybe the NHS here will not recognize it and I won't get access to the app. And I'm like, no, I need to wait, because then I don't want to not be able to travel because I didn't get the vaccine in my own territory. You know what?
I thought I had the same conundrum running through my head too.
Yeah, because you could have gone to the US and gotten it.
I could have gone to the US and got the Johnson & Johnson, I think, at least theoretically.
And I think you could, yeah.
But I drew the same conclusion after some humming and hawing that you did, that it wasn't it wasn't going to be worth 3-week head start or whatever it might have been.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, it was just a few weeks. Yeah, it's true. But those few weeks, and I understand because I've still friends waiting for theirs, feel forever when you see more and more people around you getting it.
Yeah.
So I can only feel for, especially again for countries where it seems super far, and we're here talking about people that already had both. Qantas. Qantas is offering unlimited flights for a year for people who are vaccinated.
What?
I think it's a pool. I think it's a lottery. It's not every single person. But they basically want to encourage people to getting the vaccine. So they say, hey, here's a big lottery. You can get air miles, and I think few of the prices are like unlimited flights for a year. I don't know if it's international or not, but that's good.
Yeah, that's a good. A lot of governments. I mean, California. I can't remember if I mentioned this. Have put a $15 million fund together, where if you have been jabbed or get jabbed at any point, you are instantly entered into this lottery. They're paying people, I think, like $50 to get vaccinated, and you have the chance to win $1 million. Because California is absolutely rolling in money right now, so they can afford this, and it's a very good investment to get those fence sitters or the person that's like, yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. We'll pay you, and you might win $1 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I should have gone there to do my.
Some places are doing like you get a burger or a beer or marijuana. I saw that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Weed, exactly.
Great, fine, whatever it takes.
I think is it West Virginia? You can get a gun for the vaccine.
I mean,
look at the face of it. Can we get the A350 for a vaccine? I'd like that. If some government can get into a lottery, we could get an aircraft.
You know what? It's funny you say that because every time I see the A350, I miss it. I want to fly on it. I'm always on Dreamliner, which I love, but I look at the 350 and go,
diversity.
I want to get on one of those. And of course the 380. I don't.
Man.
I kept wondering, like, when I haven't seen a 380 other than an Emirates one taxi past me when I flew out last time. I haven't seen one in the flesh.
The Emirates, I think, are the only ones flying it right now. You cannot. So we're lucky in London to even. You're lucky to even see one in the flesh, because I don't think
feel like seeing a rare nocturnal animal. Yeah.
Let me take my camera and take. Wow, I have a picture in 2021. It's dated. Look, it's 2021. I had a picture.
Yeah, look at that thing.
You said $50. I think. Was it American Airlines is offering $50 and a day off for their staff to get the vaccine. I think it's. You don't get $1 million as a lottery, but I think it's also nice, I guess, to do that. Who else? I think United. Where is it? I think I took a note that. Yeah, United. United. Scott Kirby said a few months ago, so that's not relevant anymore. But that they had been thinking of developing a new class, so economy, premium, business first, and they said, we're going to do a vaccine class. So they wanted to actually use, I think, premium economy to segregate people who had the vaccine from everybody else. So you could have your own cabin in their flights. It didn't happen, wouldn't have happened, said it was too complicated, but they thought about it, which is insane when you think.
It's like having smoking and non-smoking on an airplane, right?
Yeah.
With an airborne, virus.
But that was the fact that they thought about. I mean, it's creative, I guess. And United is also they're saying that they're asking their employees, the ones that are in the air, to get vaccinated. Otherwise, they will be moved to non-customer facing capability. I think. Fair enough. I guess it must be a complicated debate to be had. To be frank, I'm pro vaccine. I understand that at some point it can become difficult to handle, and how you handle your current employees. It's not an easy thing for airlines to be dealing with, to be honest, right?
But what you're describing, at least in the U.S., seems to be the general, atmosphere, is that they're really, really pushing frontline customer-facing staff, especially in flight, to get that. They're actively incentivizing them, and also saying, look, but if you don't, then you're just not going to be in front of the customer.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's also kind of a branding exercise, customer exercise to tell. You remember at some point all these airlines, Emirates and Qatar and others were saying all our staff is vaccinated. They were like it was part of their communication towards to reassure the passengers, the wannabe passengers, that it was fine, right? So I guess it's just yeah. Have you? Talking about since we started with a bubble, was our friend who was doing the bubble between New Zealand, so Australia and New Zealand, that direction. The bubble between Hong Kong and Singapore is,
yes.
I think,
the Berlin of airport of travel bubbles.
That was Mike Bird on Twitter. I sent you. I found it so funny. That's a tweet. The year is 2287. Hong Kong and Singapore announced the beginning of discussions of a travel bubble. Though no restrictions on international travel exist, the plans will be ritually withdrawn 2 months later. Nobody remembers the origin of this strange practice. Exactly that. It seems like every 2 weeks they're like, yes, we're not. I think it was, this could happen. This will start. No, it's delayed. Sorry. This could happen. It's close. This will start next month. No, it may not happen. No, we're not doing it. And basically they're still not doing it. It's poor. To talk about expectations and anticipation for travel. Imagine you're living in Singapore, and you want to go to Hong Kong because I know you love Hong Kong, and you're like, no.
Oh, I know. And you book a flight, and then it gets canceled, and then you book it again, and it's just.
Oh my God, poor guys there. Tell us how it feels to be given this glimmer of hope, and that glimmer of hope to be, removed off your feet so quickly afterwards. It must be really. Sorry, I'm laughing because of the joke that I just read, but other than that, it must not be funny. The irony is that the cluster in Singapore, which is the reason why this not happened, I started at Changi Airport, which, whilst it's not in use, so you're like, what?
Yeah, there's something going on there. And I'm reading all of the new case reports out of Hong Kong from all the countries, and I thought you guys were closed. How is this happening?
Yeah, Vietnam as well. Suddenly, I think Hanoi airport has closed all international flights. So it was mostly, I guess, flights for Vietnamese abroad because the country is virtually closed. So yeah, it's and Alex is suddenly in microwave oven because
I couldn't take it anymore. So you'll just get the dulcet tones of the birds because I live in Illinois.
I love the birds. I also kept my guys. If you're hearing birds, it could be on my side as well because I left the window open. Otherwise, it would be too hot. What do you think, man, about this announcement by United that they're going to invest in Boom, the new supersonic?
I wondered if we were going to talk about this. I am so excited for supersonic travel to return. I feel like we've talked about this in one form or another for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fantastic PR move because there was lots of asterisks next to this order, which was we're going to buy however many they committed to, I think 35 or
was it 35? I thought it was 15.
15 with the option of 20 more then perhaps.
Oh, okay, there you go.
And then it was like in the bottom, if this is met, if this sound and safety and environmental things are all met by where they said they were going to have them live. Our peers in the armchair airline world have just roundly derided this as PR.
Marketing. Yeah.
Something to talk about, something positive. I would love for it to happen. There's still so many hurdles, and most supersonic travel is still banned because of noise.
Oh, the boom, yeah.
I didn't know this. Maybe you caught this during the pandemic that one of the big private supersonic jet manufacturers shut up shop.
Which one?
I knew you were going to ask me that. I can't remember.
Never mind.
But they were. It might have been the one that Branson. Oh no, Branson invested in Boom. It was basically the other one.
Yeah, the other one. I remember we talked about it like years ago.
And they
maybe 2-3.
They just said, we ran out of money, sorry, bye.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. But I mean, it's a big undertaking, not only to develop the actual engine, but to do a frame, like you said, all the safety and having to deal with, I think that, even though there's no supersonic flights, the supersonic boom over New York and over London, it's still not, so you cannot do it. So I'm saying these two cities because it seems that one of the obvious choices to start a route with would be that one. Yeah. What I didn't realize is that this, I don't know what the name of the boom aircraft is. I forgot. It was over something. It's only 55 seats, so it's kind of on the smaller side of. So I'm wondering, are those only business first? Because I'm guessing the price will be.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not Concorde prices, but not. I mean, if it ever goes, and that's what we're talking the end of the decade at least.
I have to look.
We're
it up.
not that old, so maybe we will actually experience that in the next 20 years, and I really hope so. But I'm not holding my breath. But I really want to at the same time.
I feel like if it had come from somebody like, Boeing or Airbus or, of course, but they came out of Y Combinator. Mm-hmm. So they're like a tech startup, and I'm sure that they're all very, very smart people. I think things like SpaceX have proven that, an outsider can come in and in relatively short period of time, totally revolutionize an industry from soup to nuts. And, these guys may do it too, and I am rooting for them. But me
too.
Quietly
as a geek, I want it to happen because I want to see a supersonic flight. I want to be on one, or at least see one on plane radar, plane finder. I mean, I want to see that happening.
Yeah.
I mean, I really hope, because the other trend, since we just talked of the Atlantic, the other trend, which we foresaw because we were talking about it way before the pandemic, but now is clearly happening, is that over that route, which is one you take very often, if you were to go to New York or Boston, we'll start seeing the 321 XLR, basically single aisle. And for me, long haul travel is wide body. So when I'm in a single aisle aircraft, and I've done long flights with a single aisle, I don't like it. So I'm like, I'd rather, if it's a single aisle, give me a boom thing that goes super fast, and not. I like the 321 fine, but I think it's not as glamorous even as a 777. I don't know why. I don't associate that aircraft with long haul travel.
No, I think it's not going to be as fast as Concorde either, is it? It's
no. I think, but
it's 1.7 Mach.
If I'm not wrong, because I don't know, but I'm guessing that because of the ban of the noise both over New York and I think London, by the time they could basically push the freaking afterburners and go super fast, and then they have to reduce the speed, the actual Concorde bit, when they were really going at Mach 2, what was it, is not that long in terms of distance. So maybe, at least on that route, maybe if that boom aircraft was to go, yes, they're slower, but would that make a huge difference in the end with the fact that they need to wait until they can go to full speed, and then they need to reduce speed, and they need to wait because Heathrow is always backed up? I don't know. That would be an interesting one. Though I've read, I don't know if you probably, because you follow the same guys that I do on Twitter. Somebody was mentioning that a lot of people back in the days of Concorde were using Concorde to go to the US because it was super fast. But coming back was not as much use because you would land very late at night. There was no benefit. You would rather sleep for 7-8 hours in a 777, for instance, because why would you pay in that direction in terms of I would arrive in the middle of the night? There's no benefit of arriving 3 hours in London. I don't know.
Yeah,
I read that. I never thought about it.
That makes a lot of sense. And whenever I've read, autobiographies or the diaries of this famous person, they always talk about taking it to New York and not back from New York. I'd never considered that. That's a very good point.
I'm going to credit, maybe it was John Ostrower. I mean, one of the guys we both follow on Twitter had a thread about this the other day. And I think I never thought about it. It's very interesting because it's true that sometimes if it were to arrive, what's the benefit of arriving in the middle of the night after a 3-hour flight? I mean, I'd rather than have a nice, comfy seat.
Yeah. The alternative being it's like an 8 a.m. departure and you arrive in the afternoon in London, but I think
that didn't happen. Yeah,
you've lost a day. Your day is in the air. So you're right. I'm sure they did. I mean, obviously they did to get the plane back. So
yeah, of course.
It would have been interesting to know.
especially with the price difference. It's like, why would I pay that much to fly back if anyway there's no true benefit to do it?
Yeah.
Alex, are you still there?
I am.
Yeah, it's fine. Your camera disappeared.
That was weird.
It's okay. You're still with me. You're still with us.
Yes.
So guys, let's do we have 10 more minutes. We'll do a little bit. So, flights to nowhere. We discussed that last time, and I was like curious to see, because we were hesitating which countries were doing it or not and which airlines. And I just Googled, and of course, I did realize South Korea. So South Korea, Air Busan. I've never flown them.
Me neither.
Did you ever fly them? They're doing flights to nowhere as well. Why? That's an interesting bit. Just so that you can buy duty-free on board.
Have you ever had an experience where you thought you got into duty-free and thought, that is markedly cheaper than I would pay on Amazon or the grocery store?
No.
Me neither.
There probably have been a time, maybe in the 80s or the 70s, because and maybe you had that. I remember people telling me, Paul, buying a camera at Hong Kong airport duty-free was so crazily better than anywhere else. And nowadays, I'm like, no, not really.
No.
And but probably there was a time, and maybe some of the older generations of guys that are listening to this can actually tell us, but there was probably a time when it actually made sense.
I would
for the
love to
diversity of
hear
product.
duty-free tips, because I look at the prices and go, and you look on Amazon, you're like, I can.
Yeah. No, exactly, right? It just makes no sense usually. I mean, it's like what were you saying earlier? There's maybe this thing that because you're in an airport, you're already in a mood of saying, oh, why, let's do some shopping.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm enthusiastic about the fact that I'm going to travel. So you do that. That I understand. But in terms, if you really look at the pricing, I was actually, when I was doing this hackathon in a plane, brought people in the 380 from Hong Kong to London. There was one of the teams in a hackathon that was doing that. I haven't followed up where they are now, but they were from China. It's almost a cliche, duty-free in Chinese. Sorry. And they were, they did this comparison thing. So where you take a picture of the thing at duty-free, let's say in Hong Kong, and it would automatically compare with all the other duty-frees they had data on to tell you where it would be the cheapest duty-free. Maybe there's a demand, I don't know, but I've never also usually I buy something at duty-free because I forgot my battery pack once.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I need to buy a battery pack because I'm going to run out of battery in my iPhone. Yeah. But that's pretty much the only reason I ever bought something at duty-free.
I would love to, and I think maybe there's almost a way to flip that model and say, you're in, I don't know, Mumbai, and it has the cheapest duty-free in the world for product X.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, okay, well, that's worth knowing. I wasn't really in the market.
But would you go for it just for the duty-free reason? No, if you're there, it would be nice to know. But
yeah, it would be nice to know, but I wouldn't know. Oh, God, no. No. We've been over this. If I'm not going to go for the meal, I'm not going to go for the duty-free.
And so through my research about these flights to nowhere, I found one which we can go behind is Emirates 2. Sorry, we can go behind. Emirates did a 2.5 hour flight to nowhere with for the celebration of the vaccination success.
Oh yes,
so that's nice. Air New Zealand did a care flight. It's called Koru. I had to write it down here. It's they're carrying children with disabilities. They've done that before the pandemic, and this time they did a flight and they drew a giant
kiwi. I saw that. It was cute.
That's super cute.
Yeah.
That's super cute. And yes. That was the scope of my research. I wanted to know about Taiwan. So Eva Air was indeed doing flights to nowhere, and the flights was fully Hello Kitty themed.
Because
that's amazing.
Was it them that had the Hello Kitty livery?
Yeah, at the airport. I described it. Yeah. They had like these.
That's right.
And it was a gate actually, right? They also have flights. That's fun. Oh well. And if you were to live in Hong Kong, I know you always think about your days past there. There's no flights to nowhere, but you can go to cruises to nowhere. I'm not sure that's
even worse.
And this couple in India, final one, this couple in India who did, because it was there's still going on restrictions, obviously on weddings. They invited all their friends on an aircraft, and they had
I saw
wedding.
that. They chartered the whole plane, yeah. So they didn't have to obey any rules. Yeah. Oh my.
I love it.
Wow.
I love it. I don't know. I think it's stupid, but
Congratulations to them.
yeah, happy.
That's all I'm going to say.
Exactly. Look, I had a little bit more things, but I think, let's do one more, and that's it. It was actually a message from LA Flyer, our dear friend. Maybe I'll just ask you the question before I go there. What do you think? I mean, either of us, we're not working for corporate, so our business travel is our own, and we deal with our clients ourselves. But do you think business travel will be lagging? Do you think it will take a while for them to restart internationally? Or maybe have you seen in your flights a lot of what you thought were business travelers, or they're mostly still either casual?
It's definitely still casual. I thought it was probably engineered, but also very funny that during the Delta earnings call, when Ed Bastian was saying that video calls are no replacement for face-to-face, the video dropped out. I don't know if we're ever going to, I mean, I think it's the same with work from home. I don't think we'll ever go back to pre-pandemic levels, but I think it will come back gradually towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I think there might be. I'm on the fence, because on one hand, I'm like, if I were to be a boss with a lot of people, I want to be cautious because I have a duty of care towards my employees. So, and I don't want to force them to travel until it's actually safe, where it's not completely your personal responsibility. I'm talking here international travel, guys. I mean, domestic in the US is probably fine, or in China, if domestic as well. But once it starts, it can go very quickly. Once it's actually happening, corporate can come back very quickly. And the tweet that LA Flyer sent me, it was a Lufthansa Group presentation, and they did a forecast. And for them, it's pretty grim. They say that the reason they're going to be okay is because of casual flyers, but that corporate, even by 2025, will not reach. It will reach perhaps 90% of what it was in 2019. So for them, for Lufthansa, it will take time for the corporate travel, international corporate travel, to start again. And maybe it's part of the reason, some borders will stay longer closed than others. Hopefully not to 2025. But I have no idea, honestly. I always thought that tourism will start first and corporate travel later, but now at which speed corporate travel, once it starts, can recover, I think it will be fast, but when, I don't know.
Yeah.
However, you like the 350 you just mentioned. Lufthansa is installing first class on the 350. So I think if they do that, is that they believe that corporate travel is coming back. The way they wouldn't do it otherwise.
No, I think, I mean, they have to, all of these airlines have to take the same length view that they do when they're planning new product and ordering new airplanes. They're looking 10, 15, 20 years in the future. So I think that they see things returning relatively back to normalcy. Otherwise, they just wouldn't be making these investments.
Yeah. And I kind of love that. That was even before when we recorded last year. Everybody kind of loves saying it's the end of first class, and every time it's the end of first class, there's more first class. It's like this cycle of life. We go through a crisis, whether it's 9/11, whether it's a financial crisis. Everybody says everything is doomed. Yeah, and then
life will never be the same.
Well, we get back into the cycle of becoming overconfident until the next cycle, and we overspend, and then it comes again. I think it's human nature. And to be frank, for me, it's the same. I think you said that in the 2 episodes ago about all these fake, stupid prophets. It's like the death of cities. The cities are not dead, guys, or the death of office. No, they're not dead. It's just an equilibrium. It's just like, I think I agree with what you just said. There'll be a new equilibrium that will take probably a decade to filter through, to crystallize, because I think there will be another correction at the start. Everybody will want to go back to office. Not everybody, but a lot of people have been starved off not seeing colleagues. So at the beginning, you will want to see them. Yeah. Maybe at some point, you will come back to some flexibility. But this, it's end of first class, end of this, end of travel. I'm like, what are you talking about, guys? It's never
nothing is
unless
ever
it was an extinction event when the virus would eat our flesh after having met for 2 seconds. Yeah, okay, but no, I mean, it's gonna be fine. I mean, it's gonna take a little bit of time, but it's gonna be fine. So to finish off, I'm not gonna do a trip myself because the big one is the upcoming, which will be probably the next or following episode, which was my Hong Kong Cathay Pacific first class. So last time, where was I? Oh, I forgot I forgot to play the music last time. I wanted to play something to say that I was talking about an old. Of course, when I do that, I forgot to put the sound on, so I'm gonna do it again. The old look. So that's a signal that we're back in 2019.
The old like phonograph.
Anyway, so I'm gonna do one flight. I was in Singapore, you remember, that was a long flight. I did my speech. I stayed 2 days in my favorite hotel there, which is the Capital Kempinski. Really fantastic. It has a little bit of Raffles.
Oh, nice.
I kind of wanted to be kind of the Raffles, but it's not the Raffles. It's really, I love the Capital Kempinski also because it's expensive, but it treats you super well. So I arrived, I think I cleared immigration at 7 a.m. I was in the hotel at 20 minutes later. It's crazy. There's no traffic at that time of the day. And of course, my room was supposed to be only, at noon, but I had to be on stage at 9 a.m., as I said. And the guy's like, yeah, here's the key. Just go take your shower. It's fine. It's super nice to have that. So I stayed 2 days in Singapore. Great food. Great drinks, of course, it's fun. Thank you again, Ernest and Chinji. You guys were amazing. They were hosting me. I tried, guys. If you are in Singapore or if you're going to Singapore when it opens, you need to go to the Nutmeg and Clove. I forgot the name of the mixologist. She's amazing. She did me a chicken broth based drink. So it was I look at the face. That needs to be tried. It's absolutely fantastic. She's a great mixologist. I'm really sorry I cannot remember your name because I probably have noted it somewhere. But yeah, I highly recommend Nutmeg and Clove. It's a bar in the very cool district there. What I did though when I was there for 2 days, I went to see the old. Have you ever the old airport, the original airport?
No, I've never been there.
Called Kallang Airport. So it's the runway has disappeared. Is a run. It's actually a highway. So forget it. But the original airport is still there. You cannot go in. Sadly, I think at some point it was some kind of co-working space or art space or something, but it's closed, but you can really still see it. I love the architecture it's very eerie because you're like, I'm in the middle of high-rise buildings and highways, and there used to be an airport here, and you still have these tiny
I do love that.
It's fantastic. And by the way, if anyone in Singapore knows how I could get into that building, next time I come, just please hit me up because I really want to see how it is inside.
Yeah.
It's lovely. So the Holy Grail, as I said, is the next flight, but this one was just a small flight from Singapore to Hong Kong. It was, if I do remember, a 333. And I was in business class. It's probably tighter than the 777. It was really nice. 4 hours. I think nothing special about it, probably because back then I was doing all these long flights and 4 hours seemed like nothing, which is pretty sad when I
walk in the park
now. But it was a very nice flight, and that's the airport of the day. I wanted to mention Singapore T4, where I started that flight. Because I don't know if you've ever seen T4. T4 used to be the budget terminal.
Yes.
So, and I remember when I first stepped into T4, the current T4, I was like, what just happened? I remember being in that budget terminal years before, and it was literally a concrete cube with no personality, felt really like, am I really in Singapore Airport? When you see the rest that is so fantastic with all the amenities, it was really... I don't know how to describe that, but very, very grim compared to the rest. And so they redid it completely. They still call it a budget terminal, but as I just told you, I flew Cathay Pacific from there, so I'm not exactly
more
sure
regional,
that qualifies as. Yeah, I guess it's. You're right. It's not. It will be, but it was not linked with the others. You cannot simply walk. So it's either, for me, I arrived with a taxi there, but I think there's a bus that drives you between the two bits of the airport. At some point, of course, if you look at the plans, everything will be connected and there will be 25 terminals.
Yeah, knowing those.
You know how Singapore.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons I wanted to talk about for a few minutes, 2 more minutes before we close the show, is that for me, even back then, I remember I noted on my notes, this is probably the airport of the future because everything was automated. It's a miniature Singapore airport because you know Singapore airport yourself, Alex. So it has all, even the carpets are a bit slow. It has all the markings of truly being on brand with the rest of Singapore airport, but everything is automated. You arrive, you have like rows and rows of automated machines that seem like small R2-D2s, and it's really well done. You have a few check-in counters, you can, of course, obviously. It feels like very empty because there's not a lot of staff. Again, they automate everything. You even can check in your luggage with an automated machine, which I did. So, you put your tag yourself and it just goes through everything. And I do remember that the immigration counter, because I had to go out of the country, and in Singapore you need to get out. So they had e-gates for Singaporean and residents, and of course nationals, and I think some Asian, the ASEAN region, but not for someone like me.
Right.
And I remember noting, and now that's very pertinent for our world. On the table where I was putting my passport and giving the passport to the immigration officer, it was saying self-cleaning bacteria in action or something like that. So they had made a special coating that was, I guess, eating all bacteria, eating all whatever, and it was completely I don't know how that works, man, because, but now that I think of it, I'm like, this is exactly what all airports should have because people are still freaked out of touching things. So
yes,
this was, they foresaw the future even before it happened. I think auto cleansing surface, something like that. It was crazy. I mean, it was like, that was 2019. Now it would make sense. But anyway, so, and inside it's still smaller, but it's very well done. You have a lot of low cost, of course, AirAsia, for instance. Are they still around? I don't know.
There's such an amorphous brand, all over the world. Who knows?
And Cathay Pacific and Korean Air. So these are the two that were, I guess, regional. I think you made a good call here. It's really an airport for the future. The lounge of Cathay Pacific was really nice. Good lounge, again, small because it's a small airport, small terminal, but really, really nice. No showers, but you can go to the next one. I think it was called Blossom to take showers. Really comfy. There was a feeling of being in an airport. I mean, of course, Singapore is very good at this, but and I've noted that in 2019. I'm like, this is probably the airport we're going to see more and more, the type of airport we can see more and more. And now that we've been through the pandemic, I'm like, this is probably what we're going to see more and more anywhere where, we just mentioned QR codes for everything, automated and well automated, not like
where you're
no
actually
cost,
adding
don't
friction.
care. So it was cool. Sorry, that was a long one, Alex. I took 2 hours of your time.
No, so I love doing this, so it's always a treat for me.
I know. For me too. That was, I was sad that we couldn't record that. But your daughter will be even stronger now that she had the wrists of steel.
Yes, I sure hope so.
Did her brother sign up the cast?
No, we have these rolls of tape so she can change the color of the cast at her whim. So we've been doing that instead.
This is very cool. We didn't have that as kids. We had a grim white thing.
So this is a little bit
kids
these
days. So good. I can ask you whilst I put the music, and I'll put it low for the end of the show. Your next flight is then this Friday.
Yeah, to DC. Yep.
And so. Just to DC, you said?
Yeah, DC. So
BA?
American.
Nice. And you don't know where you're coming back.
I don't know if I'm ever coming back. No, I live there now.
Exactly. Maybe he's never going to be here with us again, ever. Take your microphone with you so we can do another episode.
Whatever airport lounge I'm huddled in a ball in, I will participate in the conversation from.
I'm not going to say don't get diverted this time, because if I say that, we're going to have another news to talk about. So enjoy DC, my friend.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
And enjoy the flight. See you next time, guys.
Safe travels.
Bye. And there we go. Thank you, Alex.
Love it.